So technical planning has a need for different types of inventories. And operational planning, so your current annual operating plan, requires totally different information. You can't really, well, if you're satisfied with using annual averages for volume products, it's fine. But if you're interested at something more than that, trying to put the right machine in the right block, trying to queue a block because you get you got a pull for certain product species, anything that you have up here really doesn't foot the bill. So you need different forest inventories to do that. And now comes the interesting technologies like data from your onboard computer on a harvester. You can even start to look at cutting instructions, bucking instructions. For that, you need very different inventory variables. But at the operational level, perhaps the most interesting technology is super high density point cloud. So LiDAR again, but rather than collecting 6 points per square meter, we're collecting 2,000 points per square meter, and you're actually at that stage, you're able to map every single tree out there, and you can bring this into the cab of the machine in real time navigation. But you can do a lot more than that. You can start to look at what are the characteristics of your tree. So this is tree number 17, a famous tree in our research. It looks like that in reality. You can pick it here in a point cloud. Here's that tree where we removed the neighbors, and here's that tree, same tree number 17, where we have predicted what's going to come out of that tree. And the good news is these things are getting semi-automated. So it's no longer a PhD student in a dark office that does that manually tree by tree. We're developing workflows to do this automatically in some cases, but at the very least semi-automatically. And the vision is we're kind of hoping someday you'll have in your navigation screen, you'll have that point cloud where you can actually go through it as you progress, but also you can have a cut recipe and a bucking recipe for those trees ahead of you, because in species like tolerant hardwoods, it's pretty complex to do that task. And again, we're at that level today, so totally different forest inventory variables than what you would need just to calculate the provincial wood supply. But it's not the only useful. Now we're starting to look at managed stands, and Tony talked about that today, and other people did as well. But it's now time to try to figure out how to intervene in those young stands at an early stage. So this is again 2,000 point per square meter LiDAR on a 12-year-old plantation, where we're actually able to automatically extract heights and crown width for individual trees that are mapped. So this is beginning to be quite powerful. We're working with JDI on doing this much earlier, like 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 year old plantations, in order to look at remedial silviculture and try to put those plantations on a trajectory. So very different tool belt, different inventories that are needed at that stage. Okay, so now how about a straw dog of an approach? If you look at characteristics of digital forest inventories, here I look at two axes, so the spatial resolution of the product, and here the frequency of update of that product, or what I call the refresh rate. So for example, digital photo interpretation, really the cycle I don't think can be better than every 10 years because of the cost of acquisition. And then you're still dealing with large polygons. With digital photo interp, you're not gonna look at species composition for a 10 meter by 10 meter raster. it's at that end of the scale. Now, the big breakthrough we did around 2012, 2013 with LiDAR-derived enhanced forest inventories. Well, we're here. So I don't think we'll fly LiDAR any earlier than every 10 years, if ever. And then, but we're dealing now with a large pixel, 20 meters by 20 meters is a standard the province approved. At the other end, those who collect onboard computer data and actually collect it on a server in the cloud, well, you get hourly updates, and then you're at the single tree. So very, very high spatial resolution, very, very quick turnover. The bad news is you cannot collect that measurement until you cut a tree, and you don't always want to cut a tree to decide what you ought to do with that stand. So there's a bit of a pitfall there. What I talked about, a UAV that carries a LiDAR like we have, you can do single tree measurements. It's very expensive. Don't think you want to fly it too often over the same space on the surface of the Earth. Predicting where you did some harvesting, partial harvesting, is still a challenge. Looking at changes in forest health, you can do that annually, and then you're at the pixel level. And then species, well, you can still do that annually. You can predict your species before treatment. You can run the process again, look at the species left after treatment. You can do a ton of interesting things there, but you're kind of limited. And then when you're looking at tree vigor and then growth rate, like we did, well, you can do that on a quarterly basis, a couple times a year, and then you're getting close to the single tree level there. So it gives you a little bit of a landscape of some selected inventory features and what it means in terms of frequency and then spatial resolution.